Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Macro Talk. It is Tuesday, or Thursday, according to my notes. I have a red pen. July the 1st, 2028. Where have you been? All right, tonight, Macro Talk. We're going to be going back to basics. This is for anybody who's relatively new to macro. And my chair is squeaking, and I've messed up a lot of equipment here, so there's a good chance you'll hear other noises. What we're going to do tonight is just get back to the very roots of focus stacking. This is for people who looked into macro because they were interested in this. They were interested in the idea of having to take lots of pictures to get a single image of a very small thing. And they don't know how to do it, but they're hanging around here in the hopes of hearing that. So we're going to talk about that today, and it didn't work out quite the way I planned. I had a lot of very adventurous plans for tonight, but I'll show you in a minute what it looks like. It's not as adventurous as it could be, and we'll get to that in just a second. But before we dive in, Thursday in Macro Talk 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to go over the results of the competition last month. This was the wildcard competition that was done for the sole purpose of letting the AI judge your images and rank them. I was fascinated to see what would happen. Well, I can tell you what happened. I broke the AI. It just completely gave up on it and went to sleep. I keep reminding, and it says, "Oh yes, Alan, I'm on it. I'll get to it right now. Could you send me the pictures again?" I have a feeling this is going to be a fairly typical results video. I'm going to go through the fantastic pictures that were sent in, but I'm not sure I'm going to have anything to show you from the AI. This is the second major disaster that I've been let down on by this technology. So yeah, I'm not completely giving up on it. I'll look at it again after this, but for right now, it's a disaster. So yeah, I'm glad I got that off my chest. It's been riling me up all day long. Saturday, 10 o'clock in the morning until 12 noon, per Zoom. It's the first per Zoom for July the 5th, 2025. We'll be getting some introductions from some folks, some updates from others, and yeah, I'm going to bring something too. I'm going to bring something to talk about, and we'll see where it goes from there. Let me see. It'll be fun. Regardless, it'll be fun. This Thursday, I'm going to have a second crack at talking to Kelly. Kelly Bosch. Kelly wasn't available this last Thursday. Her dog was having eye surgery. I thought that was a kind of like a dog eating your homework thing, only with surgery involved. But no, it was real. And I had her send me the sutures and everything, so I know it was real. And we cancelled last week. We're going to redo it this week on Thursday, and hopefully I'll have a video for you by the weekend. I'm looking forward to talking to her a great deal. I have put another 2 videos that I particularly liked over in the blog post on www.alanwalls.photography.com/blog/first, F-I-R-S-T. In that blog post, you'll find a couple more videos of Kelly's that have come out recently that I think are stonkers. I may have shown one of them to you before, but check them out. If you have any questions for Kelly, if you want to ask her anything at all about what she does and how she does it, please put the question right now, tonight, in the chat, and I will take it from here and make sure I ask it 2 days from now. Similarly, if you have any requests for live stream topics or suggestions for competition themes, leave me a message in the chat tonight and I will take care of it. All right, I'll keep this very brief. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to support me and the work I do for the channel? If you have, now would be a great time for you to do that. You can do it on Patreon, or if you don't like Patreon for whatever reason, you can go to my website and go to the donations page and toss a $5 bill or something in there, or a $1 bill. Every bit helps. Things have been getting tough. Prices are going up, income's way down, and yeah, need to keep this thing going. All right, one other thing. My friend Bud Parrott has a microscope. It's a gigantic research microscope by Zeiss. It's one of the nicest microscopes I've ever seen. He has another one too, though. He has two microscopes, and he doesn't need the first one. But he equipped this thing with everything that you can put on it, including DIC. If you are in the market for a bargain basement microscope that has everything on it, that you don't have to buy anything for, let Bud know. And if you can't find Bud, let me know, and I'll pass your message to him. It really is the deal of a century. He got a good deal on it, and he's not trying to make any money on it. He just wants to get his money back out of it. So that's good. All right, let me explain what the plan was, and let me explain what we're actually going to end up doing. I say we, like there's other people involved in this particular mess up. I tend to talk about stuff that interests me, and because I've been doing macro photography for a long time, the stuff that interests me doesn't always interest people who are fairly new to this. In fact, they don't know what I'm talking about, and that's understandable. And it occurred to me that I really need to pay more attention to the people who are looking for some basic guidance on how to get started. So that's what I thought we'd do today, is some basic guidance on how to get started. And this was the plan. I was going to show you a setup. It's a setup I made this afternoon, and I made it with, I'll show it to you in just a second, but it's quite advanced, and I did it in a couple of hours. I should have left myself more hours though, because I was going to do one for a manual rail and one for an automated rail. Now I figured that most people, if they were brand new to focus stacking, would probably come into it via a manual rail. And I have lots of manual rails, and they're in a box. And on the side of the box it says manual rails. But I can't find that box. It's somewhere over there with all the other boxes. But I found only one, and it's not my favorite. But by the time I had that one ready to go, I didn't have any time left to do the rest of the thing. So I was going to show you an automated rail and a manual rail. And because I figured most people would probably be starting out with a manual rail like the Wii Macro, which is eminently affordable compared to other options, I would show you how that one worked. But instead, we're just going to go through all the high points, and there are about 12 things I wanted to talk to you about if you're new. So I don't think we'll get to them all today. We'll probably have to do another round of this. But I want to tell you about how to prepare the specimen. We're going to assume for a minute that you're photographing an insect or something similar to it. So how to prepare the specimen, how to set up a platform on which to take the photographs. We'll spend a good bit of time on that tonight. And that will include picking up camera and a lens to use. Then we'll talk about how you use a manual focusing rail, and I've got one to show you. And then we'll talk about how to use an automated rail. Now, this is not going to take the place of my many videos showing you how to use an automated rail in detail. This is going to get you started and let you know how to set everything up. Then I'm going to talk about lighting, camera settings, shooting the actual stack, the things you have to do, managing the images, what you do with the card from the camera, how to focus stack in Photoshop. I've done a video on that, but also how to focus stack in Xerine Stacker and or Helicon, depending if we have time. Then I'll show you some retouching, some saving, and some something that begins with an I. I have no idea what that is. Importing, exporting, I don't know. But we'll walk through the processing of the images. And then we'll go to editing in Photoshop. That's after you're through with all of the stacking type of processing. And we'll go into Photo AI and finish things up there. And then the last thing is we'll export our image. That will be our final image, and I'll show you how to do that too. So this is for somebody who's never done any of this before, okay? Presumably, though, you have a camera, it's important, and a lens, very useful. Doesn't matter what lens, as long as it's kind of a macro lens, as in can shoot at 1:1. You don't want to use a 300mm telephoto lens for this. It probably wouldn't work given the size of the setup. And I'm also assuming that you're going to be shooting things like insects. It doesn't have to be insects. I'm choosing insects because that's what I shoot, and I have some around. Now, here's the other part of the story. Last night, as I was coming into the house, there was a dead grapevine beetle, a gorgeous grapevine beetle hanging onto the wire of the door. I tried to wake it up, and it was just as dead as a doornail. Picked it off, took it inside, put it in a little plastic cup, and this morning it was still dead, as you would expect it would be. So I was going to prepare that and show you exactly how to set it up and pin it and pose it. And as I rolled it on its back, of course, as you would expect from this day, the way it's going, it moved a limb, it moved a leg. So I think it may be alive after all. So I can't use that one. And when I started looking at things I had out, now this was late this afternoon, the only thing I could find was the most atrociously awful looking frog leg beetle. It looks more like an actual frog than a beetle, but it's in terrible shape. So we're gonna have to skip, or partially skip, the part about pinning the beetle. I am going to show you a couple of things though. Now, I've had to string up cameras all over the place to try to do this. For example, there's one of these cameras, is this one, that looks at the back of my camera, and all it seems to really see is reflections. But even when it's turned on, well, let's see if it's any better. No, you can't really see the thing, even though it's actually in focus on my screen. It's yeah, I don't know how to fix that. It's the camera just doesn't like light, apparently. But anyway, that's one of the cameras, which we'll use a little bit to show you the camera settings. The other one is a little bit maybe more useful, is this one from above. Shows you the whole setup and what you'd need if you were using an automated rail like this. If you're using a manual rail, it's even more simple, and I will show you that first. So they're all the cameras that I've got pointed at this thing. I probably need more to get everything across, but we'll see how we do with this. Can you actually see the bug? Probably not. If I put my hand underneath it. Nope, that doesn't help either. Well, you just have to take my word for it. There's an insect over there, like right there. And that's what we're going to be photographing. It's dusty and grimy. I may end up switching to this one, which is a pretty weevil. Okay, so preparing the specimen. You need to do everything that I didn't do. So the first thing you need to do is you need to clean it. And that is so important. This one is not that terribly dirty, and I could probably clean it with a paintbrush. But the only paintbrush I have on my desk, the bristles don't move. It's solid. I don't know what kind of paintbrush that is, but it's absolutely useless for what I need. We might try painting some of the dust off just so he doesn't look so bad. But really, the most important part of doing this is applying a pin into the abdomen of the insect so that you can manipulate it and hold it and position it, as I have done with this one. But that's been pinned for a long time, and I wanted to show you how to actually do the pinning, but we'll have to go back and look at some of the old videos for that. But really, that's all you've got to do. I recommend, and this is a new recommendation relatively, unless you absolutely have to, don't put water on any insect to wash it. The same goes for relaxing the appendages. I mean, you very frequently you have to put a bug like this in some where we go, there we are, a bug like this in some warm water in a chamber where it's sitting above the water, and the steam, the mist, gets into the joints and limbers them up. That is a very valuable way of doing it. It takes a long time sometimes, but it also gets the thing wet. And I've had more problems over the years in getting bugs wet and then never being able to get them back to their original beauty. I'm finding that sometimes just lightly dusting them off Now, sometimes the things you get if you buy insects from South America or Africa, you get bugs that absolutely need to go in a hot tub of water and get thoroughly washed because they're a disgrace, terribly messy. But yeah, some of the dealers sell really nice ones and they just need to have some dust knocked off them. So in this case, the guy really needs to be washed, but I didn't have time. So we'll pretend that that has been done. Now, a quick word. This is for the more advanced players amongst you. Think about what you're doing when you pose your subject. This is how you impart motion and activity and liveliness to your picture. If you just have a weevil sitting there like the one on the intro here with his arms out and not doing anything, it's fairly boring and predictable and cliche, and that's how people photograph insects. All you have to do is think about how that thing moves and then maybe change the position of the bug on the pin so that you can have it positioned in a way that it looks like it's walking towards you. It's not difficult. And it takes a little practice to get it right, but you've got, what, 6 appendages, each with at least 4 movable segments. You can put them in any order you want, and after a while you'll get good at it. Same with the antennae. You need to put them in a flattering way. We're not going to get into all of the details of posing, but let me tell you, 5 minutes posing your insect before you sit it on the stage to photograph it makes all the difference in the world. It makes it for a dramatically more interesting photograph. Okay, so that's the specimen. The platform. I wanted to give you the most basic platform that I could possibly think of. One that I could make in 20 minutes or half an hour. And that's what I did. I took a piece of leftover, what's this stuff called? MDF, medium density fiberboard. And I did one thing to it, one thing only, and that was draw a straight line on it using a ruler. Now, the fact that the line may not have been exactly lined up with the piece of wood doesn't matter, because we're going to have the specimen and the camera mounted on the same rail, which is mounted on the board along that straight line. All I had to do once I had drawn a line on this throwaway piece of wood was drill 2 holes. You can't see either of them. No, I'm not going to risk taking this off, but I just put 2 wood screws through the holes in this rail. This is an Arca Swiss. It's actually a double Arca Swiss. It has 2 grooves on it running down its length. And I put 2 screws into the holes for that purpose, right through into the board, and solidly attached it to the board. Now we have our base. I flipped it over and screwed 4 rubber feet. I should have thought about this and taken a picture of it, but I didn't. 4 rubber feet with little screws inside them that you just screw with a drill right into the wood, and it makes for a nice soft cushioned base for them to stand on. The reason I do that is because of these. These are clip-on bendy arm lights. And you'll notice that my controls are right here, glued to the clippy part. That keeps them out of the way. And the reason I lift the board up off its base with those rubbery feet is so that I can clip these things on and they don't disturb the height of the table. And these lights cost about, I think, $10, $12, something like that. They're absolutely fantastic for lighting specimens. You can put 4 of them on if you want, or 6 of them. I'm just going to use 2 tonight to show you the effect. All right, we'll get to lighting again in a minute. So once this thing is on, this rail, that's the base for whatever you're going to do. You need this rail on the base because everything else gets attached to that. Now, what we were going to do first, but are not because of my faux pas, was attach this, which you can't see from that camera because of many things. Let me just try this. This is a Manfrotto 454. as you can see. There's proof. And this is a very simple rack and pinion type gear. You just screw these knobs on the end and it moves the carriage, sorry, wrong side, the carriage along the rail. That's simple. So I put a quick release plate on the bottom, something like this. This will do. It's the right idea. Screwed that onto the bottom and then attached that directly to the rail that we have running down the length of the table. So this fixes this in a perfectly straight line. Then all we have to do is put a quick release clamp on this nut. You want to see one of them too? This is an itty bitty one, but it works just fine. It's one of these. So this screws onto the rail at the bottom, and then you tighten this and it clips the thing, holding it in a straight line. I used 2 of these to make sure that they are in a straight line. When that's all done, you have this piece attached to the bottom rail. And because we have to run through this and I don't have one to actually show you, I'm going to be showing you the automated rail. If you need to know more about how to attach this, get in touch with me directly and I'll tell you. Modern rails, this is not a modern rail. This is a prehistoric rail. The modern rails have a much simpler way of attaching them to an Arca Swiss rail. And they basically go on with one clip. So much easier. The point is, though, you're going to attach your camera to the top of this, to this part of the rail. This is the part that moves, the skinny part, as you'll see. I'll move it there. Right. So this is what moves, and our camera is going to be mounted on top of it with this 1/4 inch screw that goes into the base of the camera. From that point forth, everything we're going to do for doing the stack is going to be the same with this as it is going to be with the automated rail. The difference is we have to do the moving with this rail, and the automated rail, as the name suggests, does it for you. There are a lot more steps in setting that up, and it's complicated and it'll take way more than the hour we have. I'm going to assume that you've watched one of my videos on how to do that. As far as this goes, because we don't talk ever about using manual focus rails, but it is such a cool skill to have. When your camera is on this and pointed straight at your subject, and let's say you have used the focus ring on your lens, let's say you're using a Leica 90mm APO, the 2x lens, the Dreamliner, something like that. Dreamer, what is it called exactly? Anyway, this is it, this lens right here. Lovely lens, and it gives you 2x magnification. So let's say that's the one you're using. Now pretend for a minute that this is not mounted on a wee macro rail down here, but is mounted instead on this Manfrotto rail right here. So the camera and the lens are mounted on this. All you do to do a focus stack is you grab your remote control, which you must have. You have a remote control for all your cameras, right? And this is just one that plugs right into the remote control jack on the front of your camera, and that allows you to take pictures without touching the camera. And that's very important, because one of the biggest enemies of taking magnified photographs of anything is that when you touch the camera to release the shutter, you cause the whole camera to shake. And if you have shaking while it's taking pictures, you have blur. So what we do is, very simply, and it really is very simple, we know a couple of things about this rail. It's got a not particularly fine lead screw in it that moves the camera, the whole assembly on top, moves it about 1 millimeter, 2 millimeters for every full turn of this knob. So you know that if this knob goes, and you'll notice I've got a little band-aid marker on it there, if we go all the way around back to the beginning, we have moved that screw a total of 2 millimeters closer to the subject if we go clockwise. So all we have to do is figure out what magnification we're using so that we can calculate approximately what kind of step length we ideally are looking for. And let me just drop back in case anybody's not familiar with the whole concept here. When you're taking pictures with a lens that's 2x magnification, your depth of field is very, very shallow. And it's hard to get a picture that has enough in focus to be interesting. And that's why we use focus stacking, to take a lot of pictures at different focal planes and then let the computer put them back together again. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So we know that a full turn of the knob on the end of this will move our camera and lens forward. Now that's just another way of focusing, right? You can use the focus ring on the lens if you want, but you can also just move the lens, and that does exactly the same thing. It's not exactly the same thing, but for the time being we'll say it is. Now at this kind of magnification, where we have the bug maybe 6 inches, 7 inches in front of the lens, it's not as close as it could be, but it's close to it. So it's really close. We're probably getting almost 2 to 1. Let's say 1.5 to 1, just to be safe. Now, if you look at the calculators for figuring out step length, you'll discover that at that magnification, with the aperture that we're using, which is wide open, f2.8, f4. I think this lens is a bit sharper at f4, so I backed it down a little bit. But anyway, if you do the calculations, it comes out that your step length with this lens probably doesn't need to be much more than about 400 microns for every step. That's a little under 0.5 millimeter, right? 0.5 millimeter is probably a little aggressive, so let's back off and say 1/3 of a millimeter. I think you'd be in very safe territory there. And learning this and learning where to look for the numbers is something we'll talk about another time. There's an art to it. But if you want to be completely conservative, you could even go to 1/4 of a millimeter, 250 microns. But the thing is, you now need to figure out how can you make this manual rail move the camera as little as 250 microns using this knob that only grossly adjusts the position. Well, we know that a full rotation from band-aid to band-aid is 200 microns. I have 2000 microns, right? 2 millimeters. So a half a rotation would be 1 millimeter. 1/4 of a rotation, which is not hard to do, would be 500 microns. And half of that, 1/8 of a millimeter, would be what we're looking for. So all you really need to do, when you think about it, splitting a rotation into 8ths is something you could probably wing it. Or you could take a white marker or some kind of scribe, and you could make 8 little marks equidistant around the circumference of this knob, and just turn it till the next one's pointing up, next one's pointing up, next one's pointing up, and then each time pause, pick up the remote control, take a picture, move it again, let it rest, take a picture. I did focus stacking like this for at least 8 years before I got my first automated rail. I didn't know that you really could do it any other way. I mean, I was just so used to it. It would take me hours, but it would be like a Zen exercise. I mean, I'd just sit there and move. I got really good with getting fairly accurate steps, and that's really what the game is all about. It will give you so much confidence to do other things with your macro photography. If you can do a focus stack like this, you've calculated roughly how long the step needs to be, and then you've used your brain to figure out how to get that out of whatever piece of equipment you have. And most of the modern rails, the ones with the little handles on the end, like the Nisi that I like so much, that's much easier to use because it's smooth, it turns much more easily, and it's easy to come up with divisions smaller than 1/8. But if you're using just a macro lens, even a 2x macro lens, it's plenty. You can easily do that. I would do routinely manual focus stacking at up to 5 times magnification with microscope objectives, and it takes forever, but you can do it. So great way to start, and it doesn't cost anything. So that's the way you use the manual rail. Using the automated rail is very different. You have to, but let me say one other thing about the manual rail that you don't have to worry about with the automated one, and that is you must never turn the knob counterclockwise once you've started stacking. If you mess up and go too far, just keep going. The next one the right length, and so on. Just keep going, keep going. Never back it up again. There is a thing we won't get into tonight. It's called backlash. It is well, I guess we will get into it tonight. It's the looseness in a gear assembly that allows the gears to turn against one another. But it also means that when a gear changes direction from going backwards to forwards, it has to turn a little bit before the second gear engages. There's a little room in there. If there was no room, the gears could never turn. They would be locked in position. So that little bit of room is called backlash. And on these things, if you back this rail up just a little bit, it will introduce all that backlash back into your shot, and you'll have a gap in the middle where the specimen doesn't move for 10 or 20 turns. So don't do it. It's best for you to go, well, we won't go there either. It gets complicated how you set the shot up. But I was going to say, you just make sure that you're always moving forward and you'll be okay. All right. Now, the Wii Macro rail does everything I just told you that we do manually with the Manfrotto rail, but it does it for you. All you have to do is tell it where to start the stack, where to stop the stack, and how big you want your steps to be. And we've already done the calculation for the last part. We said 250 microns should be fine for something this big at this magnification and this close to the camera. So all we have to do, and I will try to show you this because I think it will be helpful for you to see. By the way, just because I used manual rails for a decade to do macro photography, I do not recommend it. Not with the invention of the Wii Macro. Just bite the bullet and get one, and make your life so much easier, and you'll have lots of time to insect prep and do other things like that. So the what was I going to show you? Oh, the well, the Wii Macro. Let me show you what that actually is first, and then we'll get to the other stuff. The Wii Macro consists of I'm going to do something very brave here and try to disconnect one of the cameras. This could go poorly. Let me see. Oh, not too poorly. This is the Wii Macro right here. This is the motor that runs it. It turns a threaded rod on the inside that you can't see because of the light. It's that thing there. It turns that and it moves the rail backwards and forwards. And it moves it in increments that are teeny tiny, way tinier than you're going to need for a long time. And when it does that, it moves your whole camera. This is a camera. Oh, geez, don't get seasick on me, guys. This is your camera and your lens, and it moves the whole thing forward to focus on our bug up there. All right. That wasn't very helpful, was it? I had to, I'll show you this too. I had to attach a post to my ceiling for this purpose today. And I almost fell off the step ladder because I've got a bum knee. Well, that would be an interesting perspective to look at for a little while. Oh, this is hard to do. Okay, we'll leave it there. Let's talk about the rail is controlled by your phone. That's what I was going to say. So let me show you. This is a phone. Now, I've flipped everything upside down, sideways, so that you could see the camera right, and the result is everything on my phone is written backwards. and I don't know how to change that. So yeah, you'll just have to borrow somebody's Wii macro phone and figure out what it's all about. But you set your step length in these settings, the ones that say pets. That's step spelled the wrong way. And once you've set it all up, and I've done a video on this, of course, you confirm the settings and you go to the next page and you're ready to set up your stack right here. Way more information than we can deal with tonight. But the beauty is that this machine, as you may or may not be able to hear, moves the camera and the lens backwards and forwards in the steps that you set into it. You tell it exactly how far it needs to go for each step and how far it needs to go, where it stops and where it starts. It does the rest. And that is the interface. Now, most of the other macro rails on the market have a standalone device, something like this. Something like, oh, I've got the wrong camera on. Something like this. This is the StackShot controller. And this actually has a touch screen. You can punch in the instructions directly. You don't have to go through your phone. I prefer that, but I'm getting used to the other way as well. So, and there are quite a few choices of macro rails out there. Hopefully getting to be a few more choices on the way. That's another story for my Patreon folks and I are going to talk about this weekend. Exciting stuff. So that, oh, I almost knocked my Weevil's antenna off. So the whole Wii Macro thing, or StackShot or NovaFlex or whatever your rail is, we'll deal with that separately because each one has slightly different ways of using it. Let's talk briefly about lighting. There is no photograph without light, and that is also true for macro photographs. And you don't need a tremendous amount of light, but a couple of things that are really important is your light needs to be diffused, and it doesn't need to be so bright that it sends reflections bouncing off your shiny insect back into the camera. So it is better, if there was one global rule I would give you, or global suggestion, it would be use these cheap lights that I'm talking about, but invest in a few more of them and use maybe 4 of them at the lowest settings that you can with diffusion over the ends, so that the light is soft and coming from many different directions. Do that from the beginning and you will be much, much happier than if you buy one super powerful light and shine it right on your subject. When you have one light, you get all this light reflecting back off certain parts of it right into your camera, and there's nothing you can do to calm that down. I had a light to show you. I don't know what I did with it. I had my one of my lovely what's it called, the RM75, something like that. Somebody remind me who makes that. Small rig. Wonderful little light, terribly bright, and not very useful in this setting unless you have several of them positioned around. So let me show you what I've done to just throw this together, and it's a really good, easy way to light something like a beetle. And it's, well, you can see them actually from this side too. It's these bendy arm lights that actually come with a little USB plug on them. There you go, which is attached to the clipper. So you can turn the light on from here, and you can increase and decrease the intensity and even the color, the temperature of the light. And if you have 2 of these and you have them set up the same way, and I have another one there, you see, everything's backwards. So I have one there and then I have one there, and they're clipped onto the baseboard, which is raised off the table by the rubber feet. And this way I can position these lights anywhere I want them within reason in front of the specimen. So I can position them low and high like that. or the other way around. If I want to have the other one low and this one high, like that. And any way that you want to position them, they will hold in position. Now, I left a diffuser on one of them so you could see what that looks like. This is just a very quickly thrown together. Oh dear, my I unplugged the I unplugged my power brick. That's something I ought to show you. This is a tip for you pros out there. Get yourself one of these. This thing, you can plug 50 or something USBs into it, and it powers everything, and does a wonderful job. It makes everything much less cluttered on your table. So this is what it looks like then with the diffusion on one of the lights and then not on the other. You can see the diffusion is the light is hitting that diffusion and spraying it backwards, but also letting light get through. You'll just have to take my word for it that the light that's coming through is much softer than the light that's coming from this one, which is not diffused. Would you like to see that? You probably would. I don't know if this is going to be possible. I have to turn on my camera, switch to the other. Whose idea was this anyway? Oh, that actually looks better than it did before. All right. It's yeah, it's not too bad. So this is the undiffused light. You can see that it is shooting back balls of furious white light right into the camera. And if we turn the power down, well, you probably can't see it, but I can on the camera. It really makes a bit of a difference, but not enough of a difference. Let's instead, though, turn that off and take a look at the diffused light. We'll turn that one down a bit too, and I think you can probably see just from there that the light has a much more even, soft quality, and you can actually see what we're looking at. So the secret is, I know it's not, this is not in focus. The camera on my desk, the camera on my rig is in focus, but that doesn't help if that vibrating one isn't. How do you stop that vibrating? I never thought about that when I built the thing. So there you go. Putting diffusion on your light, which in this case is nothing more than a piece of velour, not velour, what's it called? Paper, tracing paper, heavy tracing paper, cut with little legs so that I can stick it onto the side. That's all it is. And it greatly enhances the quality of the light and makes for a much, much better picture. It's the biggest bang for your buck at this stage in your macro, is use properly diffused light, and you'll be miles ahead of the game. You'll get away with so much other stuff if you do that. Let's talk about the camera settings, because somebody's, I'm sure, scratching their head. What are the camera settings we use? Well, think about it. Aperture first. When do you set a higher f number, a larger f number? It's always in macro when you're trying to eke out some more depth of field. Well, why in the world do you need to eke out more depth of field when you're taking pictures every few microns and you're going to have all the depth of field you need? So instead of going with the compromise of using a small aperture, a high f number to get more depth of field, seeing as we've already got that problem covered, why don't you use the sharpest f number, the sharpest aperture for that lens? And for any lens that you buy, somebody has figured out what the sharpest possible f number is. Just use that. I say it's 4 on this, but other people might disagree. I think Klaus thinks it's 2.8, but he lives in the frozen tundra up north and probably makes mistakes like that a lot. I don't know. So whatever it is, you can set the aperture at your favorite number for sharpness. What about the shutter speed? Well, It's another one of those things that one of the beautiful things about doing macro in the studio, whether the studio is your bunker or the kitchen, is that you can control almost everything that's going on in the photograph. The light, for example. So you can put as much light on your subject to get a shutter speed that you're comfortable with. Now, you want to avoid very low shutter speeds, though if you're meticulous about avoiding vibration and movement in the studio, you can probably get away with it. But it's probably best to have a shutter speed that's a little bit higher than, you know, a second. But you can go to some really low numbers because your camera's fixed. You're allowing time for it to rest between touching it and firing the shutter. So you can pick you can basically set up your exposure any way you want. You add light, you can use a faster shutter speed. If you see blurring, you're using too slow a shutter speed and you need to ramp it up. So I normally try to aim for about, I don't know, a 1/50th of a second or 125th. I mean, it doesn't really matter. You could just use the reciprocal law and aim for 1 over whatever your ISO is, and your ISO is always going to be set to as low as your camera will give you. The base ISO for your camera, if it's 80, like on these Nikons, or if it's 100, whatever, just set it there, because that introduces noise. And why would you introduce noise when you can add light right now and not need to worry about it? So that's exactly why ISO, take it as low as it needs to go, and then take your shutter speed as low as it needs to go with an ISO of 100 and still getting good exposures. And if there's another thing that I would consider an absolute must do, and you must get in the habit of doing this, is take test shots. If you change a light, if you move a light or add diffusion to a light or change the shutter speed or change the ISO, take a shot. Position your camera halfway through the subject, meaning you're in focus somewhere on it, but it doesn't really matter where. All you're checking for is to make sure that the light is hitting it the way you want it to, and you have enough light, and that you don't have blur. So test shots, I'll take test shots, at least a dozen of them, when I'm setting up a new shot. Now, if I'm shooting a bunch of stuff using the same technique, I may not take as many shots on subsequent subjects, but to set up the whole thing in the first place, I'll take a dozen at least. So other settings, anything automatic, turn it off. There is never anything automatic you want on your camera when you're doing focus stacking. No auto ISO, no program modes. You don't let it decide on your aperture. You none of that stuff. You do it all yourself. Another thing, don't touch the focus ring once you get started. Stay away from the lens. You have the lens, you can turn the autofocus off because you don't need it. You're not focusing. You're letting the camera's movement change the focal plane. So it's best if you turn that other stuff off. Somebody is going to ask, do you never use the focus ring to do focus stacking or the built-in focus bracketing? You certainly can. It's usually for slightly larger subjects. For things as little as this beetle, I would probably use a focusing rail like this. Okay, so that's the camera settings. Did I miss any? No, that's the important ones. Turn everything automatic off for sure, and if you do that, you're halfway there. All right, shooting the stack once you're set up involves, depending on the rail you're using and the kind of shot you're taking, it involves setting up the rail to do what you want it to do, and usually that is dead simple. And let's see if you can see well enough here for me to show you. I hope so. Let's see. Yeah, maybe so. So what we do is this. I'm going to open the app on my phone, but it could just be a no, you're not going to be able to see that, are you? No, that's terribly bright. I don't know how to fix it with this thing. I'll just tell you what I'm pressing. So what we do is we have to set what's called the start position, and the end position. The start position is where the rail will position itself when it begins moving through the subject and taking shots. The second thing we have to say is stop moving the camera when you get to here. That's the end position. It's where there's nothing left in focus. So the way we do that is we move backwards, and if you have focus peaking turned on your camera, like you should, you'll see, no, you can't really see it on this, but take my word for it. There's blue where the thing is in focus. So we just move back. So we're moving the camera back away from the subject until that blue gets all the way to the end of the antenna on this side. Like right about now. Now there's nothing blue left on the end of that antenna. So I know we're all the way back in front of the subject. Then I would hit the set start position, which is invisible. It's in this white area of completely blown camera. Yeah, you just set the start position, and then it'll ask you to set the end position. So what we do now is we go forward, and I'm not going to do the whole thing because it'll take forever, but now we're moving the camera forward, and that blue of focus is going to move through the subject towards that end of the table. And when we get to the last part, let's say we're just photographing this guy's head. So once the head is completely out of the picture, we'll stop there. So the antenna's still blue. The face has now lost its blue. The end of that, the first antenna still blue. Now it's gone. Okay, great. So we'll say that's the end of the stack. And now it's only going to take pictures between the start and the stop. So the only other thing we had to do was set the step length, and we already talked about that. In this case, say 200, 250 microns. And then all you have to do is press run. And what it does is it starts taking pictures, and in this case, it's taking pictures and moving the rail backwards to the start position. Isn't that nifty? So that saves you having to sit there and do this yourself for several hours, and it can take several hours, though it is fun to do. So that's the shooting. And if you were to do this manually, I'm going to stop that because it'll drive me nuts making all that beeping. If you were to do this manually, it could take a good long time, and you have to really be on your game. You can't be watching television or in a deep philosophical conversation, because if you forget where you are and you try to back up, you mess up the whole stack. The order of the images is important. So that's how you shoot the stack. I always shoot to a fresh card, that is a card with nothing on it, that's been formatted for that camera, so that I know I'm putting down clean images with nothing else on the card to mess me up. And I will keep those images as a group when I take the card and put it into Lightroom. Now, many people will tell you about doing this with a tethered camera, and you can absolutely do that. If you have a laptop that's part of your setup, then yes, you can take the pictures directly into Zerine or Helicon. It's unlikely, if you're watching a video about how to use a manual rail, that you're thinking too much about tethering at this point, and I wouldn't blame you. I didn't for a long time. But if that's something that you do want to do, you can tether and manually focus stack if you so desire. A word about using the focus ring for focus stacking. Unlike using a rail, where you can usually get a pretty good feel for what the step length should be, it is much harder for me to use the focusing ring on the lens, which is something you do for a larger subject. It's difficult. You have to know your lens really, really well, and again, there isn't as much backlash. The focus ring on a camera is pretty much preloaded. But I've used some of them where there is some play in it, and if you end up moving the lens back, focus backwards, you could end up with gaps in your image, focus gaps. Okay, so we aren't going to go, well, we aren't going to have time to cover any of the focus stacking software. There is an easy to use, fairly reliable little program that's built into Photoshop. Most people these days, I think, have Photoshop and Lightroom or some combination. And it's actually not a terrible program. It's not a great program either. It doesn't give you any way to retouch the images if you end up with what's called artifact, which is a thing that all stacked images end up with eventually, some way or another. And Photoshop doesn't give you a good way to fix it. It's a very quick and dirty focus stacking, but I learned on it, and it's the only way I did it for a long time. Until I discovered Zerine. But there are much better programs, but of course they cost a little bit of money. They're well worth it, and it's not that much money. Helicon and Zerine cost the same. I recommend Zerine as being a much more complete program that allows you to correct artifact by retouching. You can do the same in Helicon, but it's a bit fidgety for me. It's much faster though. It stacks very, very quickly. Zerine takes its time sometimes. So we'll talk about them in a separate session, and I'll just walk you through an easy stack with each of them. But you've got enough to be going on with. You now know how to bolt a rail to a board, put a focusing rail on it, manual or automatic, plug it in, put a camera on it, line it up with your subject, which is easy because you put everything on the same rail. I didn't show you that. The specimen part of this. It's the last thing I'm going to have time for in the last 2 seconds. The yeah, you can see it from here. Well, maybe not. This is just at the bottom here is an old Manfrotto tripod head. That's all it is. A ball head. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's it. That's the entire apparatus, and I've just put a little quick release clamp on the top so that yeah, I could stick my Beetle on some blue plasticine, and there you go. That's it. That's all there is to it. Absolutely. Oh jeez, now I've lost it. Hang on. There we go. That's the whole point of this, was to show you that I had no plans for what I was going to do. I just grabbed some stuff and made a specimen stand out of it, and it's on the rail, so everything is kept straight and on the same plane, which is what you need. So if nothing else, I hope that this has convinced you that it's just not that difficult. It's got a lot of steps and it's a little complicated, but I know you can do it. If you can take pictures of anything, you can do this. You've just got to slow down and make sure you understand the various steps. I really want to show you the software, so we will do that in a separate thing. If you're interested, this may not interest you at all, and it wasn't much of a reminder for the old hands out there. I mean, this stuff's pretty basic, but yeah. Sometimes it's good to review it. And let me see, we'll deal with all the other post-processing in the next video. So did I tell you that, yes, we've got Kelly coming up this week. I'm going to interview her on Thursday. If you have any questions, please put them in there. I see there are some questions. Where do you get your hands on that left-handed Nikon? They only built 3 of them. They did, and I have number 2. Is mine. Everything is spelled well, you know, Conin. Yeah, that's what they call it. Conin the camera. So yeah, you're crazy, Joseph. All right, guys, it's straight up 9 o'clock, and I have not even seen who's here. Joseph, David, Joseph, going back and forth, back and forth. I saw Amy earlier, and Alistair. Thank you, Alistair. I appreciate you being here, sir. Was there anything I needed to be aware of, Alistair, that or Amy, that I hadn't responded to? David Brown, thanks for covering stacking. I feel like I'm the only one who hasn't stacked yet. You are not, by any means. You are not the only one who hasn't. And You know what? I might do a video of this so that it's a little calmer paced. There's too much stuff to talk about. Are you nursing the beetle back to health? Yes, I have it in the spa behind me, and yeah, I didn't pin it yet, so it's in good health. It hasn't, nothing's happened to it yet. Nothing's happened to it. Period. All right, check your Patreon messages. Oh, Jim. Okay, fine. Yes, sir. I will pass that message on for sure. Excellent. Thank you. I will go over there and check them. If not tonight, first thing in the morning. It's been a long day. Okay, that is it. I'm going to read through these messages at my leisure a little later on. Thanks for coming, everybody. Yeah, sorry it was such a lot of material all at once, but there you go. Competition on Thursday. That'll be fun. These pictures this time are unbleeping believable. Really, really good photographs. I so thoroughly enjoyed looking through them today. I think ChatGPT would have enjoyed looking at them today as well, had she been not worthless. All right, guys, I'll see you on Thursday, if not before. Take care, stay safe, and be well. Good night.